Thank you. Good afternoon. Here are my disclosures. I will speak about the first-line, second-generation integrase inhibitor use, and first on the impact on acquired drug resistance, then the impact on transmitted drug resistance, and then we will discuss some challenges in low and middle-income countries. So I will speak about mainly dolutegravir and a little bit about bictegravir, and I will not speak about cabotegravir that is still in development. Dan Kuretzkis has also mentioned all these clinical trials, the SPRING, the SINGLE, and the FLAMIGO trials that evaluated the efficacy of dolutegravir as first-line therapy in combination with two NRTIs versus raltegravir, efavirenz, or boosted darunavir. And as you can see on this slide, in case of virological failure after the use of dolutegravir, there was no emergence of integrase resistance mutations in all the trials, no emergence of resistance mutations to integrase inhibitor, but also no emergence of NRTI resistance mutations for the NRTI backbone. And these data are similar than those observed in the Gilead studies, conducted also in naive patients. These studies have evaluated the efficacy of bictegravir versus dolutegravir as a first-line treatment in combination with two NRTIs. And as you can see, there was in case of virological failure, there was also no emergence of resistance mutations to bictegravir among the patients. And these data have been confirmed in the NAMSAL study in another setting, because this study was conducted in Cameroon, and this study evaluated the efficacy of dolutegravir versus efavirenz in combination with two NRTIs in naive patients. This study showed that dolutegravir plus streptozid-tenofovir was non-inferior to efavirenz 400 milligram plus streptozid-tenofovir. And it was very interesting to note that among the patients who experienced virological failure, in the dolutegravir arm, there was no cases of treatment-emergent resistance mutations. So we have seen what happened in the clinical trials, but what we can see in clinical practice. In France, we have conducted a national observational study in more than 600 patients. All these patients were failing an integrase inhibitor regimen. They were either naive or experienced. And we studied 459 raltegravir failing patients, 154 elvitegravir, and 161 dolutegravir. And we found that a high proportion of patients who were failing to integrase inhibitors had no resistance mutations at time of virological failure. But it was interesting to note that the patients who failed to dolutegravir have less integrase resistance mutations at time of failure versus raltegravir or elvitegravir failing patients. And in this study, we have some patients who failed first-line treatment. And as you can see, among the patients who failed first-line dolutegravir-containing regimen, 0 had, among 9, had emergent resistance mutations to integrase inhibitors. So this data confirmed that what is observed in clinical trials. However, selection of resistance mutations after a first failure to dolutegravir is possible. Dan showed this morning a clinical case with emergent mutations to dolutegravir, but this is another case published in the New England Journal of Medicine, and you can see that it was a 27-year-old man, MSM. He was infected with a subtype F, and he had a very high viral load at baseline and a very low CD4 cell count at baseline. And it had also a TB co-infection. And as you can see here, after a first drop in the first decrease of the viral load, he had a rebound under FTC, tenofovir, and dolutegravir, and there was the emergence of 194V mutations, but also the emergence of a 263K plus G118R. So this is possible to have some emergence of mutations in case of dolutegravir first-line failure. It's rare, but it's possible. I will just say a few words about the Gemini study. This is Dan presented this study this morning, evaluated dolutegravir plus 3TC versus dolutegravir plus TONUC, two NRTIs in naive patients. And as in triple regimen, there are very low rates of virological failure, and in case of virological failure, there was no emergent integrase inhibitor resistance mutation or NRTI mutations in the patients who failed to 3TC plus dolutegravir. So dolutegravir and bictegravir have a high genetic barrier to resistance. There was no integrase or NRTI resistance mutations emergence in clinical trials. This is for naive patients treated with triple drug regimen or dual regimen with 3TC and dolutegravir. And this is in the context of a good virological monitoring and early switch in case of virological failure. However, there are some, the genetic barrier is maybe not as high for boosted PI, because you remember that with failure to dolutegravir monotherapy, there was an emergence of resistance mutations to dolutegravir. That is, of course, not recommended. And there are some rare cases of failure with emergent resistance mutations to dolutegravir. So now, if we look at the impact on transmitted drug resistance, in this study conducted in Switzerland, they showed that the use of integrase inhibitors can slow the resistant development and transmission in resource-rich settings. Indeed, you can see that the level of viral load after the first exposure to integrase inhibitor or the level of viral load after virological failure to the integrase inhibitors is much lower than compared to the people treated by NNRTI or boosted PI. And after 7 years of introduction of integrase inhibitor in Switzerland, there was no transmission of major integrase resistance mutations detected. The similar results have been shown in Spain. They conducted a survey on the transmitted drug resistance among the Spanish cohort, and they showed that if we look at the transmitted drug resistance to dolutegravir and bictegravir, there were very few resistance mutations evidence in naive patients, very low percentages, and the higher percentages were for these two particular mutations, the 97 and the 157, sorry. However, it was not clear if we have to take into account these mutations as a transmitted drug resistance mutation to integrase inhibitors. Indeed, in the NAMSAL study I presented before, they made a resistance analysis, a very interesting analysis, and they showed that these two particular mutations the 157 and the 97 mutations were prevalent in naive populations in 8 and 6% of cases. Indeed, there is a predominance of non-B subtype, the CRF02HG in Cameroon. However, they showed that there was no impact of this mutation on the virological efficacy of dolutegravir in the dolutegravir group. So maybe surely that these mutations are not very important. And to finish on this part, I would like to show you this paper that has just been published in JACC last month, because there was no official list of integrase inhibitor transmitted mutations, and Bob Schaefer performed this analysis, and we collaborated with other groups on this analysis, and we were able to identify 24 mutations that are candidates for to be included in this list of surveillance for integrase inhibitor resistance mutations. Of course, you have the mutations here, but this needs to be updated when more patients will be treated with dolutegravir, and especially non-B subtypes. And now, if we look at the use of first-line DTG in low and middle-income countries, as you know, there was an increase of transmitted drug resistance, especially to NNRTIs, and to improve virological suppression and address the emerging threat of HIV drug resistance, many low-income and middle-income countries are moving away from NNRTIs and transitioning to dolutegravir. However, there are some challenges in these countries because we have limited information on dolutegravir resistance mutation, especially in non-B subtypes, because most of the studies are conducted on B subtypes, and in this country there are very few B subtypes. I will discuss a little bit dolutegravir replacement risk among patients with already NRTI resistance, and the need of optimal clinical management for patients failing dolutegravir-based regimen. It has been shown that there is a possible influence of the HIV subtype on integrase inhibitor resistance. Indeed, as you can see, this particular mutation, the 263K, is mainly present in viral isolates from B subtypes, and this one in non-B subtypes. So that could have an influence of the subtype to the emergence of the type of mutations that emerge. And also, these mutations, the 118R, is possibly influenced by the presence of a polymorphism that is common in subtype A. So we need more data about that. And the main concern is about the drug resistance in patients failing tenofovir-containing regimen, because as you see in this study, this was a systematic review showing that among patients of first-line tenofovir-containing regimen in these countries, 57% of patients had tenofovir resistance, and among them, 83% had also a resistance to FTC and 3TC. So this could be, I will discuss that later. However, in the Donning study, that evaluated dolutegravir versus lopinavir in second-line treatment after first failure to NNRTIs. It was interesting to note that dolutegravir remained superior to lopinavir, even in the presence of 194V, or if the 3TC or not was used. However, even if 3TC, even if the 194V mutation has no impact, the key issue will come from the other NRTI mutations that will be associated and with the choice of the NRTI backbone. So there is clearly a risk of functional dolutegravir monotherapy, especially in patients switch from a first-line or second-line regimen to a dolutegravir-based regimen while maintaining the same tenofovir NRTI backbone. And we don't know the proportion of patients who will fail dolutegravir with dolutegravir resistance. And this is especially true when people will be transitioned without a recent viral load. And we know that the coverage of viral load in LMICs is not so good. And even when the viral load is available, the level of the cutoff of definition of virological failure for WHO is at 1,000 copies. And we know that there is a risk of accumulation of HIV resistance with low level viral replication. So I will just show you this study. This is a study that is conducted in Malawi in collaboration with Médecins Sans Frontières. And the objective of this study is to describe the virological response to TLD, first line, up to 18 months after start of TLD, so tenofovir, lamivudine, dolutegravir. And we are performing the resistance analysis of this study. We are planning to enroll more than 2,000 patients, and we will focus on the description of drug resistance at baseline and during follow-up. So I think this data will be very interesting. And to finish, about the clinical management of patients with confirmed virological failure on a dolutegravir-based regimen. WHO recommend after the first, when patients fail the first-line regimen with tenofovir plus 3TC plus dolutegravir to switch to a boosted PI, either with zidovudine plus 3TC. However, in these regions where routine genotypic resistance testing is not available, we miss some data. We don't know the frequency of virological failure in patients on first-line TLD regimen. What are the levels of resistance to the cetirizine analogs, tenofovir and dolutegravir of the regimen, and the probability of resuppressed after intensive adherence counseling. So we need to optimize the management of this virological failure to a dolutegravir-based regimen. So in conclusion, the use of first-line second-generation integrase inhibitors can surely decrease the transmitted and acquired drug resistance in resource-rich setting, where the viral load monitoring is easily accessible. The definition of the failure is very low, between 50 and 200 copies, depending on the countries. Genotypic resistant tests are available. The use of these integrase inhibitors could decrease the effect of rising NNRTI resistance and improved outcomes in these countries. However, we can expect higher rates of virological failure and potential HIV drug resistance than in clinical trials and well-monitored settings. So we are facing some challenge in these countries. We need more data on resistance in non-B subtypes. Of course, there is a need to improve access to viral load and drug-resistant tests. And I think that population-based surveillance is absolutely needed in these countries. And we have some uncertainty around the dolutegravir resistance development after a switch, or whether only interventions to improve adherence are sufficient. So I'm sorry, I'm a little bit late. I have to. I owe you some Swiss franc. No, I will just to acknowledge my colleagues from my hospital in Paris. Thank you very much.